All right, in this video, we're going to focus on different options for solving one equation. So like, think. Let's think about which way is easier when we solve equations with parentheses. So we're going to look at two different solution pathways. We have this equation represented by this hanger diagram here. Three groups of x plus 2, or 3 times the quantity x plus 2 equals 21. So we could either solve this by dividing by 3 first, or we could distribute the 3 first. If we chose to divide by 3 and divide each side by 3, we're going to get that one of these groups of x plus 2 equals 7. And then we could subtract 2 from each side and land at a solution of x equals 5. Or we could choose to distribute the 3 first. So we can see if we multiply the 3 by the x and the 3 by the 2, we have 3x plus 6, and you can see that here, 3x's plus 6 equals 21. Same thing, then we could subtract 6 from each side. It's similar, a little different. And we've got 3x equals 15, and now we would have to divide by 3. And then we're going to land at x equals 5. Notice we got the same answer both times. In this problem, maybe the first way was a little bit easier, but they weren't too different. So what are the two main ways we can approach solving equations like the ones we saw in class today? Just like we talked about on that hanger diagram, you may choose to divide first, or you may choose to distribute first. So what kind of things are we going to look for to decide which approach is better? Sometimes you're just going to be trying to look for operations that would lead to whole numbers. You're trying to get rid of fractions or decimals, just creating easier numbers for yourself if possible. So I'm going to ask you to solve the following equation and just try to pick the easier method. So this problem, 4/5 times the quantity x plus 27 equals 16. If you choose to distribute here, it will work, but 4/5 times 27 is still a fraction and it might get kind of to work with. But if you choose to divide both sides by 4/5, you actually get rid of your fractions on both sides. So instead of dividing by 4/5, I'm just going to write that as multiplying by the reciprocal 5/4 and do that to both sides. Because anytime you multiply a number by its reciprocal, you get 1. We're just left with 1x plus 27, and 16 times 5/4 is 20. There's just a tip from me to solve like that kind of a whole number by a fraction. If possible, I try to do 16 divided by 4 to get 1/4 of 16, and then multiply that answer by 5. That makes it quicker for me. So x plus 27 equals 20, and then I'm going to subtract 27 from both sides and get x equals -7. All right, let's look at another one. Again, try to pick the easier method if possible. So we have 100 times the quantity x plus 0.06 equals 21. In this case, if I divide both sides by 100 first, I'm going to get a fraction on the right side. But if I multiply everything inside the parentheses by 100, I get rid of my decimals. So I think I'm going to try that. So I'm going to distribute the 100 to the x and to the 0.06. And I get 100x plus 6, and that still equals 21. So then I'm going to solve this equation like normal. I'd subtract 6 from both sides. I have 100x equals 15. And then I'm going to divide both sides by 100. And I'll get x equals 0.15. All right, I want you to get familiar with being able to check if your answer is a solution to the original equation. And how you're going to do that is substitute the answer for the variable to see if it makes the equation true. So in this case, we thought x equals 0.15 was our answer to this problem. 100 times the quantity x plus 0.06 equals 21. So what we're going to do is we're going to put in 0.15 and replace x with that, and then solve like normal. So using the order of operations, we're going to solve in parentheses first, and 0.15 plus 0.06 is 0.21. And then I would do 100 times 0.21, and that equals 21. So because both sides of our equation equals 21, we would say this checks out, and x equals 0.15 is the correct answer. All right, so today's goals. Whenever you see an equation that involves this parentheses and numbers multiplied by it, you can solve it in two different ways. First, you could divide each side, in this case by 3, Or you could rewrite it using the distributive property. And you want to really think about choosing the easier way depending on the numbers in the equation. So that's my 2 cents.